When I was in America, I attempted something that I've never done before, and that was not only going overseas and buying good deals and getting used PC parts in that particular area, but I decided for some odd reason, I had to prove to myself that I could not only get PC parts on the road, but I could also build a whole PC and then flip it and make a profit while I'm doing an event. And honestly, this is probably going to be the first and last time I attempt to do something like this. Because this time around we went over to California. I think I'm looking at you guys over in California. I think it's like that way over there. So I'm looking at you now and then I'm pushing the camera back and looking at you again. And so I started off in California, and first up I got a rent-a-car and I was looking for deals. And the good thing about California is there was just deals galore. I didn't even have to look that hard. I think I limited myself to Facebook Marketplace only because there was just deals popping up all the time on that application. This is the Facebook Marketplace. I was also told and shown by a good friend, Vic, who lives in California as well, that using OfferUp is a really good option too. So if you guys are in America, I think Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, and also Craigslist are your three best choices for getting deals. Now back to the story in California. Basically, we got the deals. First off, we made that $135 PC, and that consisted of me getting an Acer Inspire with a 2 terabyte hard drive and pulling all the internals out for a different build, but then still using that case left over as well as the power supply. And the reason I did this was because we couldn't fit the original components in the Cooler Master half case that we picked up for $20. And so I'll put some of the videos up here, the original links for where we started off with the first deals hunt, and then we built the PC, and we started off with the second deals hunt, built the second PC. But basically in a nutshell, when it came to building these PCs and then going to flip them again, I came into some good and bad luck. And so that's what we're going to talk about here today. We're going to talk about the differences, at least with the small sample size that I have, of Australia versus the US. So starting off this journey, I was in California for 4 days, and in that time I just couldn't help myself. I guess I love doing the used price performance hustle. So I set about getting the parts for 2 different builds, one of which I actually completed in California, and then we had to take off to Las Vegas in the rent-a-car. And here's where the first problem came in, and this is probably why I'm going to shy away from building PCs while I'm doing events and traveling, because I had a massive suitcase which had all my gear for filming and also my clothes needed for the trip. And besides that, we didn't just have 1, but we had 2 and 3 cases that I had to cram into a sports car because we rented out this Camaro, which we got on a really good deal. And it was just an absolute nightmare doing this. And then to complicate things, it was just such a hassle moving around with a suitcase and then having to lug 3 different PC cases around. The concierge and everyone at the hotel, for example, they were just looking at me with the weirdest looks. And I'm just thinking, well, guys, passion always comes first. But also on the way out of LA, that's when we were pulling a Snake Plissken, there was the guy who sold me the Acer Inspire, and he told me, I've got 4 of these machines that have no hard drives, would you be interested? And I basically asked him, I said, what are you keen on for 1 of these each? And he came back and said $50, and I said, whoa, I'm not gonna pass that up. So I then went and got all the motherboards, the RAM, the CPU, and the cooler, just the motherboard combos out of those cases. I said to him, you can keep the cases and power supplies, I'm not gonna have room to fit them. And so then I took off to Las Vegas, where as soon as I got there, I listed the $135 PC that we put together in LA. And here's the ironic thing. Here's where things start to get a little bit weird, because after that, I put together the iBuyPower Red LED PC, and I put that up because I built that 2 days after I put up the $135 bang job, and I was starting to sweat because there wasn't much interest in that $135 bang job PC. It actually took me about a week to sell, and I just sold it before I was leaving Vegas, so I was lucky. And I only made $15 profit on that PC. I ended up selling it for $150. But the iBuyPower PC, when I put that together 2 days later, I put that up for sale and it instantly sold pretty much. Within an hour, I had a heap of people messaging me, and I had one guy just come over and pay asking price. He just came over, paid $600 for the build, and it was out of my hands. And now this is where things get tricky. When you're on the road, you have to sell in a certain amount of time, because I can't be taking these PCs on planes and I can't really offloading them to people like Christopher Yee. I can't be like, hey dude, just sell my PC and give me the profits. And so I suddenly had this stress of having a time constraint placed upon me where I had to sell these PCs. Otherwise, I was pretty much faced with the consequence of either forfeiting them or letting them go with a loss. And so thankfully, when I sold that red LED PC straight away, that gave me some confidence. But I also learned that I think in America, aesthetics matter even more than they do in Australia. And like, I joke on the channel about LEDs, but there's a lot of truth behind that. LEDs sell PCs. And that's the whole bottom line. If you're into flipping PCs, you definitely want to take a look at aesthetics and make sure it checks out with a certain price point. In the case of the LA Bang job, that thing it took ages to sell, and it was the worst performing item, even though it was packing some pretty good value, I thought. In Australia, this thing would have sold, like for that price I was asking, 200 US, it would have flew off the shelves. Like I could have got 300 Aussie for that PC like that. But in America, it just took ages to sell in Vegas. And I don't know if the Vegas population, I think it's the same as the Gold Coast where I live. I don't know if that's a factor, but one thing I did realize that in America, aesthetics are king. But of course, how much did I make on each of the parts or builds or flips that I did? Well, we start off with the LA Bang job. So in total, that was $15. Now, I wanted to get an extra $50 for it, but again, as time went on, no one was really interested in this build. It just wasn't happening. And then we move on to the next build, the Snake Plissken Escape from LA build. We made $30 on this build. And again, I would have liked to have made more money on this build. I would have ideally liked to make an extra $100, so $130. But because the LA Bang job was doing so poorly, I literally just wanted to clear this stock out and sort of stick to that whole, okay, we've proved the concept here. And that was that you can get really good deals in California and also really good deals in Las Vegas, or pretty much anywhere in the world if you live in a city with a pretty large population. But honestly, the easiest and best moneymaker that I came across in terms of flipping was the DDR4 i5-6400 motherboard and wireless combos that I pulled out of the Acer Inspires. I was getting these for $50 a pop, and I was reflipping them for $100. So we sold two of these combos for $100. Then I used one in the build, and then I also had that motherboard and combo left over minus the RAM, and I sold that for $70. So even though we only made $30 on the Snake Plissken build, we pretty much covered that $50 for the memory in that build. So that extra flip, if this makes any sense, was pretty much a pure $70 in my pocket. And then of course we used that last combo in the build versus Christopher Yee, which also I've still got to flip that build, or Chris has to flip that build and also flip his build for me, which I'm looking forward to taking those profits. Thanks, Chris. But the DDR4 combos ended up being the easiest and best moneymaker for me on this trip. So that's a difference big time between the US and Australia. In Australia, you usually get more money by flipping a gaming PC because you're spending a bit more time and you're doing something that a lot of people, I guess in the general population, don't want to do, and that's have to put together a PC, install Windows, and possibly troubleshoot any problems in between. But I found in the US, like out of the small sample size again that I had, was that the parts were selling a lot better if you got them for really good deals and then reflipped them and just made a quick buck. The gaming PCs, I noticed it was saturated, especially in Las Vegas. Had I put these PCs up for sale in California, I believe I would have got the profits that I intended to get a lot quicker, because Vegas has a population of around, I think, 700,000. But during CES, there was just like 180,000 people on top of that crammed into the strip. And that was just insane. The whole event also put on a lot of extra stress in terms of me being sick and then having to go to cover booths, especially places like Corsair where they sponsored the event out. So I had to go to them and give them coverage as part of the contract. But also coupled with the fact that I'm now lugging around these PCs going from the Rio, which I initially stayed there for one night, then changed over to Treasure Island, then went to, I think it was the Link Hotel. So between changing all these hotels, I'm carrying around PCs. And the good thing was over time, they were diminishing. So we sold that iBuy Power PC straight away, and then essentially I just had a half case and the LA Bang job, and then the LA Bang job went, some of those combos went, and then I was just left with the half case. And then after CES, I had an extra day where Christopher Yee challenged me, and I said, look man, you know, I've got this case on me, I've still got one more combo, I'm gonna use this in the competition because I don't wanna be wasting money and then carrying things or losing things when I don't need to. So it was great that Christopher and I met up, and then we agreed to the conditions where he had the home field advantage. I got to use those 2 parts from LA. And the added on bonus on top of that was that I would then be able to leave Vegas without having to worry about flipping the PC, because Christopher was going to do that for me, and whether I made any money off it was up to you guys in the comments section on who wins or loses the competition. And so in total, in my little endeavor in the US, I made an extra $215 side hustle by just doing all this stuff and having a bit of fun. And it honestly is a lot of fun for me. I really enjoy doing this. But at the same time, I did notice some big differences, and that is the power of the aesthetics in the US. Seriously guys, if you are flipping PCs in the US, make sure you have a really good case, some RGB bling, or even just some LED bling in there. It really goes a long way in terms of just hooking people in and saying, yep, this build's quality. The LA Bang job, yeah, that thing was just, it was sad. Anyway guys, good experiment, but also another thing that I noticed big time in the US was there's no suppliers of, at least in California or Vegas, there was no suppliers of cheap cases with LEDs in them. The cheapest case I could find with good bling was, I think, the Cooler Master Light, and that had 3 RGB fans at the front, but they wanted like $60 or $65 for that, even at Micro Center. So if you guys know what the sort of RGB or bling special case is on a budget in the US, I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. Maybe there's one on Amazon that can get shipped for cheap, but I didn't check that out as I didn't have time changing between hotels and having the risk of losing something out on shippings. Though all that aside, most importantly, I hope you guys enjoyed the vlogs and the videos that I put out while I was on the road in the US. It was certainly a lot of fun, besides me getting sick, but even then, powered through that and still got the competition done versus Christopher. That was honestly a lot more fun than I thought it was, and I'll probably be making a follow-up video where me and Chris do a collaboration and talk about that, because man, that was actually the first time I've actually done something like that on the road versus someone who knows how to hustle as well. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that one. I hope you guys have enjoyed that one. If you haven't seen that video already, I'll put the link up here. But besides that, there's the differences between the US and Australia. I mean, Australia, I guess people want, I guess they're looking for a graphics card and a CPU foremost, and then aesthetics comes sort of close second best. But in America, I guess the aesthetics is probably #1. And that was sort of like the difference that I found out, as well as actually just reselling parts themselves is probably more profitable than reselling the actual gaming PCs. Who knows? Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then be sure to smash that like button. And also, if you enjoyed the storytelling or the tech videos and you want to see them as soon as they're released, be sure to hit that sub button with the notification bell turned on. And if you want the inside scoop before it gets inside of YouTube's weird 360p loop, then be sure to check us out on Tech Yes City on Instagram. And I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.